Hi there, I'm Shona Leonard, the branch administrator. Thank you for joining us on the event. Just before I introduce Barry, I'm just going to go through a few housekeeping things and forthcoming branch events. On the 22nd of April, we have a lunchtime event on dispute resolution and mediation with Lily Norris, who heads up Lily Hunter Consulting. I should say actually on the 29th of March, we have the book group, which Judith MacDonald, who's on the call, runs, and that's on Memory Illusions by Dr. Julia Shaw. On the 27th of April, we've got the second in our series of Paying It Forward, where we're looking at volunteering experiences. We're going to have Adrian Murtav from Volunteer Scotland, as well as members from the Citizens Advice Bureau. On the 24th of May, Judith's also going to be running the benefits of CIPD membership. And just a reminder, if there's any students on the call today, the online student conference is on the 2nd of April, and the branch is holding a follow-up event to this on the 11th of May. Okay, so I'm delighted to introduce Barry Johnston. Barry is the Director of People at Caledonia Housing Association. Barry has worked for Caledonia Housing for 8 years in different executive roles. Your current role, Barry, I believe, involves strategic leadership in the development of people, organisation and culture. So this event is very timely, being the cHeRies Awards tonight, and Caledonia Housing having won the terrific Team of the Year last year. So hand over to you, Barry. Looking forward to listening.
Well, thank you very much, Shona, and also thank you for the invite to come along this afternoon. As Shona intimated, my role as Director of People of Caledonia Housing Association, and what Shona and Judith asked that I do this afternoon is to provide some insight to what we believe are the activities, actions, interventions that impressed the cHeRies judges last year. Hopefully, similar to any presentation of this nature, there's something here for everyone in terms of what may resonate or relate to yourself. Well, also, I appreciate the opportunity to come along, hopefully extend my network and build new connections that will help my learning. There'll be plenty of time for questions at the conclusion, but equally, if there's any questions, comments while I'm talking through the presentation, don't hesitate to let me know. So firstly, in terms of what I wanted to cover today, I've just set out the main themes. I wanted to, highlight the importance of the people strategy at Caledonia Housing Association in terms of achieving our, wider business objectives. And before I do that, I'll just spend some time explaining who Caledonia are, what we do, why we exist. I also wanted to take a moment to talk about culture and how at Caledonia we've been really intentional in designing a culture that aligns to the delivery of our business strategy and ensuring we make a difference for our customers. I'll touch on what we're doing in terms of leadership, why at Caledonia that has never been as important as at the present time, and also how the team that I lead has to be enablers of change and transformation. And then finally, in conclusion, just spending a moment to highlight the values that inform the people function, what we are looking to accomplish. So in terms of Caledonia Housing Association, I've highlighted in this slide some facts and figures. We're a social landlord providing affordable homes to those in housing need. So we provide homes and services to some of the most disadvantaged individuals and communities throughout Scotland. We've got housing stock in 8 different local authorities, from Inverness and the Highlands to Tayside to Perthshire to West and East Dunbartonshire in the West. In total, over 5,000 homes for social rent, while we manage on behalf of owners and shared owners over another 2,000 properties. As you'll see, 185 staff roughly across our operations, turnover in excess of £30 million. And we're an active builder of new homes. We've grown rapidly in recent years and one of the largest developers of affordable housing in Scotland, and really proud, despite the challenges of COVID, how that impacted the supply chain and the construction industry, that we continued to build new homes for people in housing need to help alleviate homelessness throughout the pandemic. And that was recognised last year with awards of Social Housing Developer of the Year, as well as Scotland's Housing Association of the Year. For any of you that don't, fully, understand the business model of a housing association, ostensibly our primary source of income is tenants' rent. And what we use with that income is we spend it on the staff costs, also maintaining properties, but also procuring the private finance to enable us to continue to build homes. So because our primary source of income is tenants' rents, it's absolutely crucial for our viability, our continued ability to deliver our purpose, that we provide the right support to tenants so they continue to pay us their rent. Now, the story in terms of the people team and what led to that recognition at the cHeRies Award last year starts in 2019, when the board of Caledonia decided that we needed to develop a new organisational structure and business model to meet the changing expectations of our customers. There's increasing demand from our customers for quicker, more personalised, solution-focused services. Tenants, similar to all of us, in terms of service delivery, are used to simplicity, convenience, and being treated and valued as an individual. So what we put in place was a new decentralised operating model, which empowered our staff to deliver tailored services closer to our customers, as well as providing an enhanced digital platform so we could extend service provision and provide advice and support and information 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So the Director of People role was created and a new people team was formed in 2019 as part of that new structure. And our remit was to support the organisational design and develop the organisational culture that would bring that change to life. And that transformation we defined as our Customer First Change Programme. So from a people perspective, the first step for ourselves was developing an overarching strategic framework that defined how our people practices would contribute to the delivery of our business strategy. And you'll see that infographic on the slide, hopefully contextualizes our vision is to provide homes and services that make life better. And we've got 4 key strategic priorities to achieve excellence, to continue to build and grow success, create innovation, and crucially, developing people is integral to achieving that. You also see within that infographic our guiding principles that we see as our pillars. And I'll touch on them later, but what they are is to keep it simple, keep it personal, and make it right. What we also wanted to achieve, and was a responsibility for myself in terms of my Director of People role, to deliver the change that we wanted to see, we realised we had to shift HR from a transactional administrative function to a service that enabled and supported business improvement. And as part of that change, what we encourage the people team to do is consistently think like a finance director. What we do, how does it deliver value? How can it make a commercial difference? So each initiative within that strategy, we have to ask ourselves, why are we doing it? What difference will it make? And importantly, how can we measure it's had a positive impact? With the creation of a Director of People role, it also gave me the fortunate position to be at that top table, to be a trusted people advisor to our CEO and the chair and our non-executives. And that's when it's my responsibility in that privileged position to be continuously and consistently highlighting the excellent customer experience depends entirely on excellent employee experiences. That people strategy was presented to the board in 2020 in February. And as you know, a month later, the world completely changed. Fortuitously, when presenting the strategy, we did make clear within it and to our non-executive directors, it needed to be an agile and live framework to adopt and repivot if required, if we were faced with unanticipated challenges. That, in reflection, was quite prescient. As part of the people strategy, we wanted to intentionally define a culture that would identify and support the behaviours that were required to deliver our transformation programme. We spent a lot of time speaking to staff to design a culture. We couldn't leave it to chance. And at the outset, we wrote that down in our very own Caledonia cultural guide. We integrated it within a new competency framework, and we produced a new personal learning plan framework where all 185 employees of Caledonia have their own personal learning plan that's reviewed on a continuous basis. And it's more than technical skills, it also focuses on those behaviours that are a key part of our culture. Underpinning that culture is also what we believe are a unique and compelling set of guiding principles that outline the behaviours that will inform and enhance both the customer and employee experiencing. These principles have become part of our everyday language and is a really helpful, measure to determine we have, started to introduce the culture that we believe is vital to transformation and making a difference for our customers. We also, as part of that culture, work really hard to connect people to our purpose. We exist to provide homes and services that make life better. And what we want to do and what we continuously highlight through our communications is how everyone contributes to delivering that purpose. It brings people together, it can inspire responsibility, and importantly, builds that emotional connection. And we've also realised in a time of significant recruitment challenges, it really helps in promoting and strengthening our employer brand. Because irrespective of your role in Caledonia, whether like myself, you're in the people team, or whether in your finance, governance, frontline, we work really hard to connect what each individual does to providing those homes and services that make life better. As part of our culture, we're also massive advocates of growth mindset. We've carried out a range of seminars and produced comprehensive guidance and toolkits to try and instill those growth mindset behaviours of reflecting skills can be learned, the importance of continuous learning, the value of feedback, seeing failure as an opportunity to grow, progress and improve. At Christmas, all our managers received the growth mindset book from Carol Dweck. We've worked closely with Matthew Syed Consultancy, looked closely at Microsoft, who are massive advocates of growth mindset. And that really helped us, we feel, in the last 2 years, where we've had to adapt, we've had to learn, we've had to be creative to identify solutions to new problems. We've all had to be resilient. That growth mindset, helped us continue to be there for our tenants, as I said, some of whom are the most vulnerable in the country at a time of significant challenge. As part of our culture, we also intentionally wanted to accelerate our equality, diversity and inclusion practices. Building a company for everyone where there's a sense of belonging and inclusion. A significant focus in that context has been trying to increase the representation of our female colleagues into leadership roles. We've been active in providing support to managers to have a better awareness of menopause and provide tailored support. Be comfortable having those conversations and normalising discussions on menopause. We've developed a Women into Leadership programme, and as part of our succession planning framework, we're concentrating on how we can develop the talent to ensure greater diversity in leadership posts. We see that as more than being a responsible business. It's vital to continuous business improvement. As we often say, at Caledonia, no one is as smart as all of us. We want to ensure that everyone has a voice. And then finally, if you're to look at any of our publications, guidance, you will see the people team love a good quote. And that quote from Laszlo Block highlights our approach to increasing the autonomy and empowerment of staff so that there's greater discretion in terms of providing the right solutions to our customers on a daily basis. I would highlight that's a continued journey. For being honest, the last 2 years have slowed the pace of change in that context. As part of our business continuity response, similar to most organisations grappling with COVID, we've had to be more direct at times, but that is key part of the culture change that we still want to see, giving people that freedom and authority to do what's right for our customers. I've highlighted already that within our people strategy, we recognise the vital role managers and leaders have in developing the culture and growing the behaviours that will ensure Caledonia's continued success. We've redefined the role of managers, being absolutely clear that it's far more than just having technical skills. Our success is predicated on having great people managers. So we've invested a lot of time in developing those skills through workshops, producing manager toolkits, and ensuring we share learning across the organisation. And a key part of that change in leadership and management is to transition from being a boss to a coach. Highlighting the importance of feedback, how that is intrinsic to continued learning, supporting personal responsibility, and creating the capacity to allow managers and leaders to be more strategic. It's also absolutely fundamental to making that connection so that we're enabling staff to turn ambitions into success for both themselves and Caledonia. Our managers are coached so they're having regular career development conversations with our workforce, and we see that as absolutely vital to ensure the continued growth and development of our people, which directly connects with the growth and development of our business. I spoke about keep it personal being one of our key guiding principles. What underpins that is managers highlighting how they care, getting to know people as people. One thing we still have to get right, where improvement is required in terms of organisational design. I still think some managers have too great a span of control. That was intentional as part of our organisational redesign to facilitate the customer transformation we wanted to see. We reduced the level of hierarchies between frontline staff and the CEO. We believed that would create the empowerment that we wanted to see. However, it has led to some anomalies where managers have too many staff reporting to them, and that's something that we will be addressing as we move forward. We've also put in place measures so we can review how effective we are as line managers, and that's been difficult for managers. We can all struggle with feedback that's suggesting we might have blind spots or where we can do better, but it's about supporting the managers to see the value of that feedback. What's been really positive through the pandemic, our data, the insight we get from the Caledonia staff demonstrates managers have stood up and been there for them and been vital to helping people through an extraordinarily challenging period. Where we need to get better though, and what we've also learned from those analytics and data, is that we've retrenched into silos. And it's quite natural. Managers' focus has been on their team to ensure people well-being is looked after so they're in a position to continue to deliver for the business. However, what we need to be focusing on as we move forward is to ensure our managers are facilitating that collaboration, that cross-departmental working that's integral to continue growth and improvement. We make sure that we have one eye in the future as well as present. We've got, in terms of our talent management practices, spoke about each individual has personal learning plan. We've also invested in opportunities for all staff to become mentors. We're involved in providing intern opportunities to graduate students, but also mentoring high school students. That's part of our talent management to support career development and help create the managers of future. And then finally, the point I would highlight, being an operational manager is a really tough job. Our managers have to manage teams in a period of significant uncertainty, disruption. They've got to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. But in terms of the Caledonia engagement experience, we've learned that a great line manager is the most important determinant in terms of engagement, well-being, and high performance. If we get managers that are operating to their full potential, we can see how it maximizes the potential within each team, ensure everyone can be their best, and deliver sustainable growth and improvement for the business. Like all organizations, similar to, I anticipate your experience in the last 2 years, where I've been really proud is the organizational leaders and managers have stepped up during COVID and put well-being at the front and center of what we do. We quickly realized if we don't take care of our people at these times of extraordinary challenge, the people won't take care of our business. During the pandemic, we developed a new well-being strategy focused on those 3 pillars: mental, physical, and community well-being. Again, we recognise the huge influence our managers have on the well-being of individuals and their wider teams. So invested a lot of support, supporting managers through well-being workshops, providing the toolkit that helps them identify signs of stress, makes them comfortable talking about mental health, ensuring at one-to-ones that the first question is about staff well-being. How we measure that that's had an impact. The majority of recommendations and referrals to our employee assistance programme in the last 2 years have came from managers following one-to-one discussions and agreements with their staff. We've also learned during COVID how critical it is to be better at listening and giving staff a voice, because they do have choice. We all recognise retention's a big risk for organisations, and our employees tell us that well-being is so important to their employee experience. What we've done throughout the pandemic, very early on, we introduced regular pulse surveys. So we had that live data tailored to departments and teams so we could sense check well-being, how people were adapting to new ways of working and delivering services. We also set up a Your Voice consultative forum that's met every month during the pandemic and represents all aspects of the business. It's chaired by myself, and the chief executive attends every meeting. It's been absolutely invaluable in getting that first-hand account as to what practices have worked, where people might be struggling, and ensuring everyone is taking personal responsibility to help us put in place a framework that reflects the challenges of COVID and the new ways of working and delivering services. As part of our work and growth mindset, we've also been really intentional about the importance of positive thinking, encouraging people to be empathetic, to be kind, and recognise achievements. And absolutely fundamental to this has been the role of our leaders, the executives at Caledonia, and particularly our CEO. and being very visible, but being prepared to be open and vulnerable and highlighting we all have self-doubts, we all have insecurities. What we need to try and do is, be aware of that voice in our head that we can control. And our chief executive has been absolutely inspirational in that regard. It's been absolutely crucial to helping people stay connected and helping people through the pandemic. Just listening to the chief executive on a regular basis, her honesty and candor that highlights we've all been impacted by this pandemic. Now, my final observation in terms of what we've learned about well-being is the importance of, again, being intentional. There's no silver bullet, but it's important to try and support staff in ways that we know will make a difference. So we've put in place a number of initiatives as part of our wellbeing strategy. We've got a monthly wellbeing calendar of events, wellbeing resource library, where you can download e-learning guidance from our intranet. As I said, we've supported our managers, ensure they're having really impactful wellbeing discussions. And also, we actually held, in that first year of the pandemic, our own festival of wellbeing. And that was 20 virtual events over 4 days. And where, again, our CEO launched the Festival of Wellbeing by highlighting to our staff, this week is about them. We're incredibly grateful as to how they've adapted to continue to be there for our customers. But in this week of wellbeing, we wanted them just to concentrate on themselves, take advantage of the learning available. And this was about ensuring they could be their best self at home and at work. This event was strategically vitally important because it was a catalyst for recognising well-being needs to be front and centre. It needs to be a strategic priority at Caledonia. And that's where thereafter we've had that regular programme of well-being events and support. This year alone, we've had financial well-being sessions for staff. For our male colleagues, we've had sessions with Andy's Men's Club to discuss mental health. We've got breast cancer copper fuel sessions arranged for March. We even had this month sessions on how to cope with pet anxiety as we support staff transition back to having more of a presence in our office estates. And we were really proud last year amongst high caliber competition at the HR Scotland Network Awards to be recognised for a programme in wellbeing. We're in a unique position where staff data in terms of wellbeing is actually higher today than it was in the months prior to the outset of COVID. It's absolutely and vital that my people team also act as enablers of change and transformation. In the last 2 years, we've put in place the measures to support staff continue to support our customers, while also deliberately and intentionally capturing lessons learned. So as we re-emerge from the pandemic, we can create better jobs and deliver greater value to our customers. 70% of our staff in the last 2 years have been home workers. We've got 30% staff still on site delivering services to our most vulnerable customers in retirement and very sheltered schemes. We had to work really hard to try and ensure we continue to have that organisational and cultural coherence. There was a number of initiatives put in place. We launched a workplace social media platform. We had a communication strategy telling the stories and sharing them of our staff delivering good in the front line. And as I've said, our CEO was incredibly visible in terms of, live Q&As, weekly newsletters and regular CEO updates. And what we learned from the pandemic as we re-emerge into, what will hopefully be more precedented times is that, staff want flexibility and human contact, what we've defined as the hybrid paradox. And we've actually launched a new agile working model, agile for everyone, to build greater flexibility into all roles. And we know there's not a one size fits all to agile working, but our aim is to build that flexibility that enhances both the employee and the customer experience. What we've learned, for instance, through our employee data, significant advantages of remote home working in terms of well-being, productivity, engagement, but also real obstacles and barriers in the context of collaboration, innovation, relationship building. And that's why we believe, as part of our Agile for Everyone framework, the office still has an important place. But we fundamentally repurposed and redesigned our offices. We don't need offices of the same scale. We've reduced the footprint, but we've also created, different types of offices based on principles that we've defined as places for me and places for we. So there is within our offices quiet space to do, specific work, or that environment if working from home is not practical, but also those spaces that intentionally, facilitate, interaction, cross-departmental relationships and collaboration across the business. But also we've highlighted, as part of this new agile model, it will evolve as we move forward. We're still learning, and we're just in this next phase of the journey as we move from being required to work from home to a position where we're more intentional as to where we work, and we choose, where we work based on what the particular task is. So finally, what I wanted to leave yourself with was a sense of what guiding principles and rules inform, the Caledonia people team. And what has been clear over the last 2 years is our strategic role. We are absolutely key to organisational strategic decision making. The days of HR being a back office function are long gone. What we consistently say within our team, we are business people who practice HR. We really need to understand the fundamentals of the business, what it's like to be in a manager's shoe, to enable and support the people powered success that's crucial to making a difference for our tenants. We need to be comfortable with ambiguity. Working in a world of disruption and change is a constant. If we are to empower and instill the autonomy that will deliver added value for customers and enhanced employee experience, we need to move to parameters and principles rather than rules. To assist that, all the people team underwent a coaching program. And we need to ensure that every interaction matters, and we're working across the group at every level and treating every individual as a person. You know, I'm a firm advocate of being realistically optimistic and ensuring we can be that positive light in the dark, you know, making a difference with every interaction we meet, and also being a red tape buster. It's where I learned quickly in my role that we had too many processes. We made it life too difficult for staff and managers. We needed to simplify the complex and trust managers to do the right thing. And then finally, again, going back to an earlier point I made, we absolutely realise as a people function, we need to prove our worth. We need to deliver commercial value. We need to connect what we do to business improvement. That is absolutely fundamental. So thank you. That's myself concluded the presentation. I'm happy to take any questions. I'm more than happy to share any of the documents that I've spoke about, and encourage people to reach out and make a connection through LinkedIn. I'm always looking to expand my network and learn from others. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Barry. That was so interesting. We're currently going through in my organisation developing the well-being, so I'm busily taking notes myself. So thanks very much. Any questions for Barry? I have one myself that I was going to ask, just to start the ball rolling. What's been your biggest challenges in creating and fostering the teamwork in your organisation?
I think during COVID, sure, and I touched on it in the presentation, we can see in evidence managers really stepped up to be there for their teams. And that was crucial to ensure we were strengthening through COVID well-being and engagement to deliver for our customers. But our original transformation programme was predicated in more cross-departmental working, and we have seen evidence of retrenching into silos. And what we need to do now as we re-emerge from the pandemic is to support our managers and facilitate greater cross-departmental working. Mm-hmm. That has been a challenge when people have been working remotely, and it's one of the reasons why it's exciting we can go back in to office environment, because we do think that is where it's more conducive to facilitating the collaboration, the innovation across teams that we believe is vital to our continued success. So that's been what we've learned from teamwork, and that's a challenge that we've experienced, Shona.
Yeah, I like when you said you don't leave culture to chance. And following up on that, I was going to ask, but you've answered already. I'm just going to ask, has the culture changed at all since lockdown?
Yeah, it's been a journey. Mm-hmm. Prior to lockdown, Shona, the intentional redesign of the culture, in simple terms, quite frankly, was to move from more of a command and control culture to one that facilitated autonomy, empowerment, greater personal responsibility. However, we haven't scaled that to the extent that we would have liked as a consequence of COVID, because at times during COVID we've had to be direct, we've been in business continuity mode. So the cultural change that we still need to make happen, managers, for instance, are still waiting at times to be told what to do, whereas we want to get to a point where managers have the confidence, the skills, and know that they're trusted to do what's right for their team and customers. And as part of that change, we know mistakes will happen. We know at times we'll get it wrong, but it is that growth mindset, saying mistakes are part of the journey of progress and improvement. So in terms of that change, that is still a work in progress, absolutely.
Yeah, building confidence with the, yeah. Elaine has just made a point where she likes your comment. I like the point about being business people who practice in HR. Has anyone else got any questions for Barry?
I'd maybe, just in terms of Elaine's helpful feedback, what I've probably not said is my career, and you touched on it, Shona, is not in HR. I came from an operations background in previous executive roles. So, I had a massive learning journey, and I still do have, and that's why it's great to be invited along to events like this and hopefully build my connection. But I do think the value that I brought, coming from an operations background, was to instill that cultural change. I understood the business, and I understood what it's like to be in managers' shoes in the front line. So it was really helpful in introducing that change, that we have to think business first to be, excellent provisions of HR and OD services.
Yeah, definitely. We have a couple of questions and comments coming in. So Lola has said, very insightful presentation. Thanks, Barry. No wonder you won the terrific team award. I'm curious to know the strength of your HR team.
Thank you very much, Lola, for your kind feedback. I'm incredibly fortunate that I've got an extraordinarily talented number of people in my team, and it's been absolutely fundamental to making it work, where I can provide strategic leadership. I, having worked with Caledonia for 8 years at an executive level, really know the business, but I'm self-aware and humble enough. I'm not an expert in HR, I'm not an expert in OD, and just by making good decisions in terms of recruitment and ensuring we've got those career pathways within our team and people realise how they're connected to purpose. We have that integrated team with, as I said, an incredible amount of skills and talent that, frankly, it makes it very easy to lead, and, they're key to the type of recognition that we've got in the last 2 years. So I am incredibly fortunate to work with some amazing people.
Mandy has asked, how do you support staff in customer-facing roles dealing with tenant poverty and rent arrears in these difficult financial times?
Yes, it's the core of what we do. Absolutely. It's, I mentioned at the outset, our business model fundamentally is dependent on tenants' rent. If tenants can't pay the rent, our business model becomes fragile and vulnerable. And what we wanted to do with our operating model is create the capacity for frontline staff to have less administrative responsibilities and focus on a smaller group of tenants so that they could provide personalised, tailored support to tenants. So that was really helpful during COVID, that our frontline staff had less tenants to be responsible for, so they could be more supportive in terms of providing the support to help them pay their rent. But we've also ensured that, as well as listening hard through the pandemic as to what staff need, we've also did the same in terms of tenants' need. And we realise we have to be providing different support in terms of energy efficiency, how to assist with fuel costs, and ensuring our frontline staff can make those connections with tenants. So it's something that's a continuum. It's ongoing at the moment, but it's absolutely fundamental to our business model that those staff in the front line have to have the capacity, have to have the skills, and have to have the resources to help our tenants at what is one of the most extraordinarily challenging times in terms of, living standards at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Tessa's asked, it'd be great to understand the locations of your HR team. Are you all based in the same area, or are the teams spread across Scotland?
And this is one aspect that is not by design or intentional, because I know I've spoke often about the importance of being intentional with what we do as a people team. The majority of my team are based in Dundee, the Tayside area. I'm actually based in Kilmarnock, Ayrshire. We have main offices. Our hubs are in Dundee, Perth, and West and Bartonshire. So we've learned through COVID, we don't need the same travelling as we had in the past, but we do need to be intentional as to at times when we need to be in the office. So I, for instance, was in Dundee with all my team yesterday. We're in the office together, ideally every Tuesday, but we do have to visit other offices. But, the location is Dundee, and that was simply the fact that that was the best people for the roles. And we've learned, as all of us have in the last 2 years, the home of colleagues now is far less important than it used to be. I read the other day that I think it was Amazon have said, as long as you're within 24 hours of an office, that's all that's required. And we certainly don't have the same principles as that, but where our staff stay is increasingly less important to ourselves.
Thanks very much, Barry. Any other final questions? I think you've perhaps answered them all. I really have found out extremely interesting, fascinating, and there's a lot of great initiatives that we can take away from that. Thanks again on behalf of the branch. And is it okay if we share your slides? Did you say that? Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Share my slides and encourage anyone to reach out. I'd love to connect, and if there's any other information we have, happy to share. What I've learned being relatively new to HR, what's fantastic is the openness and willingness to share information. So please reach out.
Thanks once again, Barry. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.